You're an idiot and directly influenced this? That's funny. You're right. Definitely. I directly did this. Because I played Vote por Trump, the song, too much. Yeah, I did this. I'm Kamala Harris, by the way. Guys, I did this. I'm Kamala Harris. I've been working with Kamala Harris. I'm Doug. I'm both of them. I have actually been campaigning with Kamala Harris. I'm the one. I'm sorry. I'm the one who sent Richie Torres to Michigan. I'm the one who told the campaign to send Bill Clinton to Michigan to be like, Judea and Samaria is goated, and that, all Arabs deserve to get killed. Honestly, it is what it is. Don't vote for us. We don't want it. My mistake. Okay? My mistake. Didn't think that was going to fail spectacularly. I was the one who said Liz Cheney should be a prominent fixture of the campaign. My bad. Mea culpa. I will recognize it and I will own it. I'm sorry. I told the campaign, Liz Cheney, Dick Cheney, we're launching them like missiles into the suburbs. They will be screaming bloody murder. They will be singing the gospel. They will carry the red book. They're all Maoist third worlders now. They're all in the Democratic Party's coalition. They're going to turn. That was me. I'm the one who said, do not campaign about any of the economic issues that a ton of Americans are experiencing in a time when they have felt negative real wage growth. Do not do that. Do not talk about that at all, okay? No matter what. Talk about civility. Talk about institutions and talk about defending those institutions. That's what I said to the campaign. That was me. That was my bad. I was like, please, no matter what you do, there are 35 polls that show that you are picking up at least 6 points if you change trajectory, if you separate yourself from Biden's Gaza policy. No matter what, do not do that. Do not separate yourself from Biden. I said in the last hour, do not ever separate yourself from Biden. Go on The View, I said to Kamala Harris. I said, Madam Vice President, you must go on The View and you must tell the American population that you are just like Joe Biden. I'm sorry. As a Democratic campaigner, I said all of those things and they listened. And now I'm here to say my bad. Okay? And it was really because at the same time, the Trump campaign's research found that up for grabs voters were about 6 times as likely as other battleground state voters to be motivated by their views of Israel, war, and Gaza. This is why Trump Vance ramped up the anti-war rhetoric in the last few weeks of the campaign. And to me, I saw that and I knew that because I was reading the polls that said, hey, you should say something about this, right? And I always said, don't you say a thing. Don't you say a damn thing about this because that's bad. If you say a damn thing about Israel-Palestine that communicates that you understand the victims, the humanity of the victims in this circumstance, an objectively unpopular policy that the Biden administration has continued along with, despite the fact that 80% of Democrats, 70% of independents, and 54% of Republicans wanted a ceasefire, I told the campaign, don't do that. Lean in to the right-wing reactionary government of Benjamin Netanyahu. Lean into that. Bear hug him. Give him another $8 billion. Do that. That's what I said. It's my bad. I said, send John Fetterman over to Joe Rogan. Do that. Send the one guy in the Democratic Party's caucus that literally cannot communicate due to a disability that he has. Like him, hate him, doesn't matter. It's a format that requires you to speak. That's what I said. I was like, Tim Walz, you shut the up. You shut your goddamn beautiful mouth, Tim Walz. I don't want you anywhere near the Joe Rogan Experience. Bernie Sanders, go back to the back office. I don't want you anywhere near the Joe Rogan Experience. So if you guys didn't understand what I was doing there, I was responding to one chatter who said that, I am the reason why the Democratic Party lost. And I gave you some of the reasons why the Democratic Party lost, assuming the position of a Democratic analyst, a Democratic campaign consultant. Now, of course, you could probably tell that I was being humorous in this situation. There's a lot of normies in here, so I wanted to, make sure that you understand what my position is, make sure that I clarify. No Democratic campaign consultant would ever acknowledge or admit or apologize for their failures. They would never do that. So that's why it's a joke. Never in the history of the Democratic Party has a Democratic consultant gone out there and been like, my bad. Peter Dow, last guy he did that with Hillary Clinton. That was it. Peter Dow is the last guy. Now he's like a literal radical Maoist third worldist. Okay? He's the last guy. Also, look at this. Now that the election is over, I think we can finally say that, yeah, actually, Project 2025 is the agenda, lol. Also, I recommended never say that they're weird again, yeah. Bro, damn, I watch your streams a lot. When did you have time for all that? Damn, disappointing. It's like you were snatching failure from the jaws of victory. Yeah. So, if you want to know, Axios is already reporting Trump is going to begin operations to deport millions of undocumented immigrants when he starts his term. Campaign press secretary Caroline Leavitt said Wednesday morning he'll launch the largest mass deportation operation of undocumented immigrants on day one. It's time, okay? And I cannot begin to explain to you how dire the situation is going to be. But before we get to what Donald Trump is going to do, let's talk about some of the failures, some of the glaringly obvious failures, okay? Because there is a lot that needs to be said. I know that immediately after this massive loss, the Democratic insiders, the rat themselves, went to the media and started talking about how it's the left that was the problem. It was the third-party voters that was the problem. The margins aren't there. If every third-party voter voted for the Democratic Party, Kamala Harris still would have lost. Do you understand me? I hate that this is yet another instance of I told you so, but the worst possible instance of I told you so. It sucks. It's hollow. It doesn't feel good. Okay? We're going to get to all of that. But let's get started with Donald Trump projected to become the 47th president of the United States.
This will truly be the golden age of America. That's what we have to have. This is a magnificent victory for the American people that will allow us to make America great again.
We welcome you to a special...
And hold on, you say you thought Harris would win the night before? Yeah, I did. I slightly favored Harris winning with an electoral college W in the blue wall, as opposed to a general population, like a general election, overall population victory for Donald Trump. I thought that Donald Trump was actually going to win the popular vote, and Kamala Harris had a slight chance of winning the electoral college. Okay? And the reason why she lost the electoral college, and I said the only reason why it was a slight, very marginal chance for Kamala Harris, was because of the many failures of the campaign that I have been actively communicating for months. For months and months and months. I've been screaming about this shit. And so have many others. But ultimately, everyone came in here and chirped and chirped and chirped and chirped and chirped and chirped and said, no, you don't understand. The ground game is great. Ground game is great. The ground game wins elections. Ground game wins elections. It doesn't matter when the top line communications are bad. If the campaign doesn't have a good message, $30 million of ad spend in every swing district is not going to change it, okay? You can pump them filled to the fucking brim with bad messages and bad campaign strategies. They're not going to respond positively to it. And the vote and the polls were right. They didn't respond to it, okay? That's it. The polls were correct. And it's very frustrating. It's very, very frustrating because Ultimately, all of the unimaginable problems that we presented over and over again that so many people did not want to see were correct. Revisionist history, dude, you are shameless. You said she would win. The video is still you. Chatters, please, I beg you, look at this, okay? Look at this. What the hell is Kamala doing with Ested Herndon of the New York Times, okay? Is Kamala Harris's strategy all wrong? Are Democrats throwing this election? Does Kamala Harris still have a chance? Kamala Harris is wild for doing this podcast for months and months and months, both on the Pod Johns podcast, both on Newsweek and numerous articles. I talked over and over and over and over again. I was confident in my statement wrong, and I hope you never took what I said as chirping at you. So yeah, I'm devastated. I think several people at work to turn out voted for Trump. Law, so me, I guess. For months and months and months and months, I said consistently that Kamala Harris has a slight chance of victory, but overall, her prospects are dire. I said over and over again that the reason why this race is even close, despite Trump's campaign being overall awful, which it is, and many people are going to tell you it was brilliant. Many people are going to tell you Trump was brilliant. He did a fantastic job. He did not. He did not do a fantastic job. Okay? He didn't. Donald Trump lost votes from 2020. Kamala Harris lost a ton more votes from 2020. And that's it. You should have been more vocal. This is on you, brother. What? It's all your fault, Hasan. I think we have a lot of trolls in the chat today, by the way, who, as always, don't necessarily care about the truth, but more so just want to like find a way to somehow make this my fault. I don't know how you think a Twitch streamer is responsible for the future of the future of the republic. But anyway, Americans were angry. Okay, Americans were very angry, and the campaign once again did not respond to them at all. They did not respond to their anger at all. Time and time again, I said, here, I mean, I'm on the record on this. I'll show you. There's a couple different moments, but I think one of the most prescient moments is this one. Okay? It's what I said after the DNC. Holy shit. My SEO is awful, dude. I just Googled Hasan, or I just searched Hasan at the DNC last night. I couldn't even find, my video doesn't even come up. PBS NewsHour, Keenan Thompson comes up. Where the is this? Anyway, are you going to be covering the concession speech later today? Yes. YouTube is also very right wing. It's like the fourth one down. No. This is John Oliver on election 2024 from the Hasan Abi archive too. I think there's a problem, and I don't think Democrats are recognizing it. One, Donald Trump knows he's losing, okay? And he desperately wants to win. That's number one. Number two, Democrats think they're winning, and the race is actually close. I don't like that at all. I think that originally Kamala Harris was like legitimately pessimistic and skeptical about her prospects of winning. Like she was actually doing a good job. Not like not gloating and being careful. I mean, Democrats are so lucky that they're running against a party that has like forgotten how to run for office. Okay, where is the? I think
he will give them another round of tax breaks. Effect is a national.
Insane. Oh, here, this is it. Oh my God. That's it. This is all it took. I can't do it. Every single reason why you were excited about Kamala Harris, beyond the fact that she was not a carcass, was literally the exact opposite of this mentality. This is old Democratic Party mentality. We're back. Good to be in business. This will be a very close race. Kamala Harris will most likely still win it because Donald Trump, unless there's some other caveats I'm going to show you in a second, Kamala Harris will most likely win this election only because the Republican Party is so completely insane. They don't know how to run a normal, competent race anymore. Donald Trump already has maxed out his name recognition. Those will be the reasons as to why Kamala Harris will most likely win. However, there's a caveat. Benjamin Netanyahu will take America's long military dick and wave it at everyone in the region, bringing troops into the fray. Okay, bringing troops in the contest. Do everything in his power to make sure that the Dems don't win. Kamala Harris will be attached to all of Joe Biden's worst foreign policy achievements. Barring that, without that, this election is not in the bag at all. I've been warning that the Democrats are way too cocky, way too fucking confident about the Brad Summer memes, the momentum that they got, the momentum that they experienced. That momentum came because the Democrats responded to public pressure. I'm sorry. You have to be the dumbest to be like, I'm voting for Kamala Harris because she's going to go to war with Iran, because she's going to stand up to America's enemies. You want to know why I know you don't think that that's a good speech? Because you're coping in the chat saying, well, it's not for me. Maybe it's for some other person. Maybe it's for the Trump guys that want to drop Trump, but just like need that extra oomph. Are you saying this was a 1 out of 10 absolute train wreck in your opinion? No, of course, it's not a 1 out of 10. My expectation coming into this speech was to see what Kamala Harris talks about when she's like the joy candidate. She's going to bring hope and change and joy. She had the opportunity to run a 2008 Obama. That's what I was expecting. Even if it was fake, my expectation at the very least was that the couple moves that they made, they were going to lead into a progressive messaging campaign. I'm sorry. The Democratic president should never, ever say we're going to have the most lethal army, the most lethal military in the world. You're supposed to be the counterbalance to fascist, jingoistic sentiment. You're supposed to at least aesthetically present yourself as the peaceful candidate, as the peaceful party. She went up there and went cop mode. It was shocking. Like, I shit on anarchists all the time. You know this. I do. But goddamn, they're kind of not wrong. That's crazy, man. She had all this progressive momentum, and now all she's got are the loyalists who are just begging for someone, not Biden. So the answer is to not vote. Man, I'm not saying that. Vote for Kamala Harris, baby. Do whatever the you want. I'm not going to tell you not to vote for her. And most will tell you to say that you're not going to vote for her, to try to fucking get her to do your bidding. As a voter, it is your right. It's your right to demand things from your politicians for your vote. They do not have your vote for granted. They should earn it from the jump. The one thing I will tell you is not vote for Donald Trump. When it comes to like making a political calculation, it's always running towards this mythical guy out there that is like, I'm going to only vote for the Democrats if they become moderate. Then become a Republican. I never hear a Republican go, you know, Donald Trump's got to take this line. He's got to take this soft approach because there's some moderates out there that he needs to win over. It's because that's not a thing, because they're entitled to their politicians doing their bidding. Democrats are so cowardly that they're like, I want this thing, healthcare, free college. I want these things. But honestly, I'm terrified that my neighbor doesn't want it. And he's not even going to vote for the Democrats, but maybe he will. So we should just run on this moderate policy for some other guy, not me, but another guy that might want it. It's wild that we're always seeking out this mythical moderate. People take for granted in European countries all of the policies that we are desperately trying to bring forward. But here in America, it's a non-starter. Trans people were mentioned twice during the whole DNC, by the way, no speaker. I mean, that's like that aspect of it, as long as it's like a firm commitment to have the trans people, I don't believe that the Democrats are going to lean into trans panic, which, by the way, actually, I don't know. Maybe they will. They're just going to become the Republican Party of 4 years ago until that ratchet effect makes it so that the Democratic Party inevitably becomes the Republican Party just at the same time. Jake Tapper on CNN. There were criticisms from the left calling Kamala a cop. Tonight, she seemed to have stepped right into that. True. They're celebrating her being a cop. This is a right-wing Democrat movement, and they're not even hiding it. But no, you don't understand. Chatters will tell me all about how good this is. Buying dude and go vote for Trump. Bro, I swear to God, the Dems are so back. This literally is like, you know, oh, if you don't want to vote for her, like you don't vote for her, like you're saying that she shouldn't be this like right wing. You must like Trump. That's crazy. Like, you think that's a good way to message, dude? You think like you should try and push people away from the party? You think this race isn't close? Democrats in the Electoral College, Democrats need to win by 5% nationally minimum. That's without factoring in, obviously, in the current polls, at least a 3 to 5% margin of error. We're not even in that comfortable space yet, and you are running victory laps. Ooh. It's crazy.
Quick interview?
Yeah. This is the last night of the DNC. This is when I came to the unfortunate, rather sad conclusion that the Democrats were actually going to tack to the center and center right in an effort to pick apart moderate voters. And they did that, and I kept reiterating how bad of an idea that was and how this had not worked in the past in numerous conversations with academics, journalists, activists, and the like. I kept saying over and over again, this is a bad idea. This is not a good idea. This is a bad idea. And that it is a risky gambit for no reason. It is a risky gamble, and it's not going to work. It has never worked, and it probably won't work. It only kind of worked for Joe Biden in 2020, and that was likely a consequence of COVID. Okay? Here is another warning that I issued to the Democratic Party on that Newsweek article last October.
The Democratic Party has this profound skill in snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. It's an issue that they would not have had if they had leaned on where people were hurting and how they were going to help them. And they didn't do that. They went with a very conservative lean. The Democratic Party's like harm reduction strategy as a way to just like shame voters away from extracting concessions and just voting for the Democrats every single time without making any demands whatsoever, as they actively push a lot of people in the base of the party away. If you rely on that without offering things to people, well, then you're inevitably shrinking your base. Whether Trump wins or loses, we are, and I mean this, living in Trump's America. Like, he might lose this election, and the Democratic Party will push Trump's 2020 agenda. That's what they're running on. That to me is crazy. That to me is genuinely terrifying to think about. The Democratic Party has this.
Yeah, but no, what do I know? And it's not just that either. There was a bunch of other issues here, like in terms of youth turnout, the male youth vote. That is going to be something that a lot of people are going to be paying attention to. I sounded the alarm about right-wingers dominating the online space for young men. 47% of the 18 to 29-year-old men voted for Donald Trump this election cycle. The amount of right-wing radicalization that has been occurring, especially in younger male spaces. Everything is completely dominated by right-wing politics. If you're a dude under the age of 30 and you have any hobbies whatsoever, whether it's playing video games, whether it's working out, whether it's, I don't know, listening to like a history podcast or whatever, every single facet of that is just completely dominated by center-right to, I wouldn't say far-right in the same way that it was back in like the 2016 era at the end of like Obama's administration, but like definitely center-right to Trumpian right, like openly Trump right, not like genuinely neo-Nazi. Go back and re-examine the conversation I had with the Pod Johns. The Pod Johns are the most like permissible left-leaning people that you can have within the orbit of the Democratic Party versus someone who is completely outside of the influence, outside of the sphere of the Democratic Party. Compare that conversation, compare the notes, compare the warnings that I issued to the Pod Johns on the Crooked Media podcast that I was on. Okay? And you will understand why we failed. You will understand why the Democratic Party failed. You will understand what the Democratic Party has to do. They will not do it because obviously they are beholden to the same corporate benefactors. They are still beholden to the same corporate masters, just as the Republican Party is. But the Republican Party gets away with being cruel. The Democratic Party still has to maintain the veneer that they are progressive, that they're supposed to be a counterbalance, that they're supposed to be a counterweight to the Republican creep towards fascism. Okay? That part is quieted down a little bit, but like they're like 90% of the way there for the most part. And that's it. Everything that they see is right-wing sentiment being expressed by individuals that they find charismatic, thought leaders, influencers that they subscribe to. And I think that that is some of the reason why you see this movement. The bro vote came through for Trump, 49 to 47. Yeah. 49% to 47%. Okay? I don't think people understand what this looks like. I don't think people understand what the future prospects look like for the Democratic Party, what the future looks like for this country. Meanwhile, on MSNBC, the progressive era has to end if the Democrats want to win again. They are tacking right again. It does not matter for them. They literally, as I told you, also correctly, they do not give a shit. They do not care. They do not care about this defeat. They're using this to say, we didn't go far right enough. It's a 30-point shift to the right. Facts don't matter anymore. There's a whole generation of young people influenced by disinformation, fed by influencers who are primarily right-wing. Other than you, there are no examples of relatable masculinity on the left for young people under 30. Yes, I am going to continue doing what I'm doing, and I'm going to continue getting mercilessly on by those psychopathic demons on the right that are capturing the attention of young men in general. It doesn't matter, though. This is not like simply a cultural war that you can win with. This is not a cultural war that you can win just by doing podcasts. That's not, you can't do that. You have to still have a solid defense mechanism at the top that aligns with the interests of people like myself. Okay? If the Democratic Party still is running around being like, everything is fine, actually. I mean, oh my God, just vote for us. The institutions, we got to defend the institutions. While everyone is like, I don't give a about the institutions, man. The price of bread is too high. The price of eggs is too high. You. I don't give a shit about your stupid civility. I want to blow it up is their mentality. You can't reach to them. You can't reach out to them. You can't communicate to them. There is a lot of ground to make up. The biggest lesson of 2024 campaign ads don't matter. Studies agree, but the media space does. The right has content mills churning out brain dead slop. They're popular. They work. Dem should plow through their massive warships in the progressive and liberal media. No, that's not the only problem here. That's not the only issue. It's not just that, like, they're not giving me enough money so I can dominate the podcast circuit or whatever. If their solution is to unleash 1 million Harry Hasans into the suburbs, they're still going to lose. They have to address the material harms that people are experiencing. If they don't do that, it doesn't matter. You can have every single TikTok twink out there running the gamut, talking about owning people in the marketplace of ideas. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's not just about dominating the communications field, okay? It's not just that. And I like some of those guys, okay? But that's not the major issue. You cannot have a party that is ideologically committed to third-way neoliberalism, constantly tacking to the center right, constantly trying to re-triangulate as the Republican Party pulls the entire country towards fascism. You can't do that. Because if one party's saying, we're going to do camps, we want to kill migrants, and the other party's like, no, actually, we want to kill the migrants, but like in a gay way, people are going to be like, okay, I'm going to go with the migrant murder party instead. They've been there for years and years. I trust them more on this issue. Now the only thing you've done as the Democratic Party is you basically said it's normal. You've normalized that position now. Good job. Good job. All the while, the entire resentment towards migrants literally stems from nothing. It's not even real. It's not a real problem. There is no national security threat that migrants constitute in the United States of America. Undocumented immigrants are responsible for less crime per capita than natural-born U.S. citizens are. That's why it's literally born out of a lie. It's just made up. It's just pure vitriolic racism. It's just misinformation. What is this? Atlanta Journal-Constitution update. Several of the migrants I've been speaking with say they would have voted for Trump themselves. Most of the folks who crossed the border illegally in the last 2 to 3 years, they don't believe Trump will deport them because they are here to work and are not criminals. That's the other aspect of this. How many times have I described to you, Americans don't know. They don't understand what the impact of policy is going to look like. They don't know until it happens. Look at Roe v. Wade. Look at Roe v. Wade. Has a chance of defeating Joe Biden. I think Trump has a chance of defeating Joe Biden. But worse than that, even if Joe Biden wins, I think we go back to business as usual politics here in America. And next time around, it's not going to be Donald Trump. It's actually going to be an ideologically minded fascist, not a proto-fascist who kind of succeeded somehow and fooled Americans for long enough to get into a position of power, but an actual terrifying leader.
Oh, my goodness.
I think Trump. Oh, my goodness. Well, I was wrong. It was Donald Trump, at least on that front. But it's Donald Trump who is the fascist. Go back long enough, you will find me accurately telling you exactly what the fuck's going to happen. But do they not understand that you don't have close enough influence to sway the entire election. No, this is not about me. Like, the people that come in here and say you're responsible for this electoral defeat are just like delusional losers that are looking to place the finger of blame at anyone but the Democratic Party for some weird reason, okay? Staggering class realignment / shift in working class from Jeff Stein at Washington Post. Harris lost despite major shift of affluent voters her way. She, literally what I said about her hemorrhaging the base while simultaneously desperately trying to grab on to as many suburban Hitlerites as possible, happened. That's it. The base fell out. The bottom fell. That's what happens when you run around and go, I'm small business. I'm a small business. I love transnational gangs and prosecuting them. I love prosecuting small transnational gangs as a business. What am I going to do for the economy? Oh, don't worry. $50,000 in tax cuts if you want to start a startup. It's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Talk about how you are going to unleash Lena Khan on price gougers. Talk about how you're going to make the grocery stores scream bloody murder for the crime of price gouging. That's what people wanted. That's what they wanted. Yeah, this is the chart. She spent months courting Republican endorsements, writing the 2016 Clinton strategy to certain defeat. They risked it all to build a centrist party of suburbanites and college kids and lost. It's time to move on, but I don't think the Dems will move with us. Registered Republicans, shockingly, voted for Republicans. Kamala Harris saw Nikki Haley absolutely get demolished in the Republican primary and said, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be Nikki Haley, but with a D next to my name. 400,000 likes, by the way. This is not Kamala's fault. She worked her ass off to a beautiful campaign with 100 days she had. She's arguably the most qualified U.S. presidential candidate ever with prior experience in all three branches of the government. Americans simply voted against their best interest. Like, I don't disagree with some of the sentiment here, except for the major one, which is, yes, it is her fault. It is always the fault of the campaign. She had $1 billion. She had $1 billion. And she lit it on fire. Shut the up. What do you need? $2 billion? You want $3 billion? The are these people talking about? Yeah. I don't want to say I told you so, but this run to the moderates looks like a spectacular failure. Lethal military, muscular border policy, and parading Liz Cheney didn't swing votes in Dems' favor and only worked to normalize Republican positions. And the bottom fell out. This kind of narrative needs to be crushed to death. It's neoliberalism all the way down. Neoliberalism must die for the Democratic Party to live. Yeah, the issue is the Republicans and the Democrats are both doing that. But the Republicans are at least communicating a right-wing populist sentiment. And populism works. When you do not trust the institutions, you want someone
Trump has a chance of defeating Joe Biden.
At least lies. You know what I mean? At least lies to you. Undocumented migrants being mass deported, okay? Adam Kinzinger tried to dunk you on this book. How to guarantee a loss in 2028? That's amazing. I just don't understand how. Does he mean the strategy you're talking about is how to lose, or is he a I know he's saying he's saying that like we didn't go hard enough on the muscular military. For the record, I want you guys to understand something, okay? Number one, plenty of people are going to look to the results and say we just didn't go far right enough. That is dumb. That is stupid. You are pushing away your base and you are hemorrhaging support from demographics that literally are anti-establishment and loved Bernie Sanders, okay? This is very important. Key constituencies that loved Bernie Sanders are now completely lost. Young Latino men, young Latino voters in general either don't vote or young Latino men straight up went to the Republican Party. That was the Bernie constituency. Young Arab men and Arab men in general, Arab women in general, okay? Either went to the Republican Party due to the Gaza or just didn't vote, okay? These are people who were literally the Bernie bros, right? You were so resistant. You kept saying that they were misogynistic, and you pushed them away into either not voting or even going, you know what? I actually wanted healthcare and none of this gay shit. I don't really care about the gay stuff at all, but I just want healthcare, into going, you know what? No one's giving me health care, but I still don't want the gay shit. At least this guy is representing the anger that I feel. I cannot comprehend how we have lost so many people. I mean, I can comprehend it. I know exactly how it happened, but I just cannot comprehend how the Democratic Party has not been responsive at all to this depolarization on racial boundaries. And another thing I want to point to, by the way, they chirped so much at black people, so much. What did they do? They were like, oh, there's a big swing for black men towards Donald Trump. What did I tell you? I told you that that was going to be marginal in comparison to Latino men and, more importantly, white men without a college degree. White men without a college degree and Latino men without a college degree went by much larger numbers of the Republican Party than black men without a college degree. But that didn't stop the Kamala Harris campaign from activating O'Bungler to go out and be like, oh, well, seems like a lot of you black men are a little misogynistic. And pussy too. You think that's a good message? Yeah, I'm glad that we spent a whole ordeal centering the narrative around how black people are too misogynistic to vote for a black woman. That was great. That was a great media opportunity. Great stuff. What did I tell you? I told you that shit was bunk. It was nothing. It was ridiculous to hyper-focus on black men, which was going to be a sliver, much smaller percentage regardless. Despite all that chatter, Trump didn't really gain with black voters nationwide. 86% Harris, 12% Trump. Unchanged from 2020 when 87% of black voters went for Biden and 12% went for Trump. Black men statistic, 78 to 20 in 2024, 79 to 19 in 2020. 1%. It drove discourse for a week. 1%. I said it. I told you. This shit was bunk. It was just a permission structure for white liberals to just shit on black people again. Okay? And that's precisely what the happened. For no reason. It is terrifying to watch the Democratic Party just hemorrhage its base and refuse. Make no mistake. They are the idealists. Okay? They are the idealists. Okay? The liberals at the tippy top of the Democratic Party are ideologically committed to a dead movement. Neoliberalism has failed. Tacking to the right over and over again has failed. And yet, win or lose, they go, we just got to go to the right. We just got to get more racist. No lessons learned whatsoever. It does not matter to them. That is why they ran a dog campaign, in spite all signs pointing to major flaws. How many times did I show you 30 plus polls that were conducted on separating Kamala Harris from Joe Biden on Gaza and how beneficial that would be? The margin of enthusiasm would make up for the percentage point of loss that Kamala Harris had in every single swing state, every single one. Just on that issue alone, you lost 0 voters if you changed trajectory on Gaza, and you only stood to gain voters if you changed trajectory, even on the communications front. It would have been a hard thing to explain to people that you were going to be different than your administration that you're a part of. Okay? It's not being a single issue voter. There are plenty of people who are single issue voters, however, on this matter. Dear White staffers is calling for campaign workers to leak the mismanagement. Your ground game does not matter if the top line communication is bunk. Okay? You cannot outflank the campaign. You can't lie to people when you're door knocking and be like, no, Kamala Harris is for Medicare for all. When you're door knocking, you can't turn around and just lie to people about what the campaign actually represents. If the campaign is saying these are our talking points, if the campaign is saying we are going to be the civility party, we're going to be the defenders of the institutions, and that's your overall communication to voters, that's the thing that you are presenting to voters as the reason for why they must vote for you. Okay? People are not going to touch that. And last but not least, of course, one of the biggest problems was Joseph Robinette Brandon. Prem Tucker is completely right. Why vote for a diet Republican when you can vote for the real thing. Do you think it's just a Palestine situation? From what I heard, is a suburban white man that didn't show up? No, it's not just a Palestine situation. That's just another glaringly obvious flaw from the campaign that shows me and everyone else that's paying close attention that they didn't have the votes to lose, and yet they were acting like it was fine, that they could win without them, that they could win without these votes. Here's the poll on the matter, okay? In Pennsylvania, 34% of respondents said they would be more likely to vote for the Democratic nominee if the nominee vowed to withhold weapons to Israel, compared to 7% who said they would be less likely. The rest said it would make no difference. In Arizona, 35% said they'd be more likely, while 5% said they'd be less likely. And in Georgia, 39% said they'd be more likely, also compared to 5% would be less likely. Now, this doesn't mean that like 34% of people that responded that they would be more likely to vote for the Democratic Party weren't going to vote, and now they are definitely voting. That doesn't mean that at all. But in those massive margins, you have to recognize that there is at least a 5 to 6% swing in your direction, because the war is deeply unpopular by Americans. And it's not the only poll. There was like 30 plus issue polls that showed this reality. 30 plus. Emma retweeted this. My takeaway from the results, it looks like America has shifted right a lot. Some of this has to do with the frustrations over inflation, sure, but I think there's more here. Democrats have been running campaigns the old-fashioned way, and I think we acknowledge that it's not cutting it. We raise money like crazy, mop the floor of Republicans and voter contact efforts, get out the vote, operations, and advertising. We also get way more major endorsements, but at the end of the day, it barely makes a difference. Most voters get their news through social media, and on social platforms, we are getting washed. Since 2015, Republicans have been building up their infrastructure to control the airwaves, and right now they do. Their content gets more impressive. Impressions on nearly every platform. That's true. All of this stuff is true. I've been saying this. I've been ringing the alarm bells about this too. But you have to remember, it's not that the country is moving to the right. Please make no mistake. Okay. On every single issue poll, Central Committee, thank you for the raid. Hope you had a good stream, brother. On every single issue poll, every single one, when faced with two options, mass deportation or mass amnesty wins. It's got majority approval. So why is the Democratic Party not showing that? People say trans panic stuff is really, really good. The anti-trans messaging is really successful. It's a massive banger, okay? It's a really good way to campaign. 64% of the population think trans people are being discriminated against unfairly. It is not like... It is what you see in the media. What you see in the media and what is represented in the media is not the reality on the ground. That is precisely the reason why a faceless, lifeless ballot measure that, if communicated by Democrats, would be considered a radical one, like increasing the minimum wage to $15, passes in a state like Missouri. That's it. Abortion protections are massively popular in states where Democrats lose by 10 points. How? I thought America wasn't progressive. I thought they hated progress. How is that possible? Perhaps it is because the Democrats are so scared for pushing. If Trump wins, there'll be efforts to blame Russia interference or Harris or Biden, etc. That's all fair, but we need to be clear-eyed that a huge swath of America likes what Trump is selling, transphobia, mass deportation. That's what he ran on, and here we are. No, dude, no. And I'll give you a reason for this, okay? I'll give you a reason for this. Here's what I mean. There are tens of thousands of people in this community that voted for Kamala Harris. Do you agree with Kamala Harris's policies across the board? Do you? No, of course you don't. No, of course you don't. And there are plenty of Republicans that either aren't paying attention or don't give a about any of this either. And they just think, oh, he's going to fix the economy. And they're dumb enough to think that that is, going to happen with Donald Trump. That's it. The idea that like everyone is hyper tuned to every single part of the campaign's messaging, and that's what they're so excited to go out and vote for Donald Trump because they all want camps at the border is stupid. It literally does not track with reality. It does not track with the messaging polls on this. And you'll see it. When he starts the mass deportations, you'll see how angry people get. Because one, what do I always say? Americans don't understand the policies that they're either voting for or just don't think about it at all. They just don't know how bad it's going to be. And that is a flaw on the counter messaging side from the Democratic Party. They never once communicated that all this border was bunk, that it was all born out of right-wing panic, hysteria. You think it's an accident that every 2 years, whenever there is a midterm or a general election, there's a caravan that comes out of nowhere? They pulled that ripcord over and over again. You know they're going to do it. Show me the clip, chat. You know the one I'm talking about. 2021, when Biden started going against the anti-immigrant rhetoric. I said this. I said that this was going to be a massively consequential problem for the Democratic Party. You know the one I'm talking about. All the way back in April 2021. One of you's got to have it. What is this? When historians look back at this election, they're going to see this moment as the one that solidified the victory for Trump. Yeah, radical progressive, according to Dems, Tlaib had nearly double what Harris had for voters in Dearborn. In Dearborn, Rashida Tlaib did nearly twice as well as Kamala Harris. Speaking of Rashida Tlaib, I'm going to be having her on the broadcast on Friday, I believe. Yeah, Harris says there's not much she'd have done differently than Biden over the last 4 years. What a baffling concept. Where are my linkers at? Oh, here it is, Jules Verne. Thank you. Jules Verne. Oh, here it is. Here.
Part of one of his early executive orders, Biden established a task force to locate and reunite migrant parents and children who remain separated.
This wasn't the one I was looking for, but
as of early April, the task force...
The refugee cap is still at the same levels of the Trump administration. There's so much that the Democratic Party engages with when it comes to just like the continuation of white nativist reactionary points of view and reactionary white nativist policies, especially as it pertains to criminal justice and immigration. This border crisis narrative is incredibly annoying from the media, by the way. They are
March 15th, 2021.
absolutely feeding into this. And they're going to cause the Democrats to behave in a totally, even in a more reactionary way than they were already going to behave. It is so incredibly manufactured. There's always been a crisis at the border. When there are humanitarian problems occurring at the border as a consequence of the conditions there, 120 degrees they have to traverse in the desert, all that sort of stuff. And then also the American government adding on to the cruelty with the way that they choose to deal with people that are crossing the border, that are seeking asylum. There is an extra crisis on the border. There's always a crisis on the border. It's never stopped. The problem is the way media covers it. You can either cover it like you do under the Trump administration, which is somewhat honestly, from a moral grandstand point of view, like an actual honest point of view, by saying this is really messed up, this is really horrible, the way that we are treating these people is absolutely ridiculous. Or you can treat it in a way where you look at the border and you say, there's a gigantic crisis happening in the border currently, and it's really bad because so many people are coming in. So many people are coming in. What are we going to do? Depending on who is in charge, we either deal with it from the point of view of reactionary garbage, claiming that this is a huge issue, not taking an actual stance on it, but just simply channeling the right-wing agitations as they have done. Just covering it as, many Americans are concerned that the border is turning into a pylon with hundreds of thousands of migrants coming in through the floodgates. Like, that's no different than what Fox News says. No different than what Fox News says. When MSNBC is saying it, or whenever, the Associated Press is covering it in that way, they're doing a disservice. If they truly have a left-wing point of view in the way that, so many imply, then they have to recognize that simply offering contentious coverage on a particular matter does not mean that you're doing honest coverage on the issue. So, all you want, you can go, la, 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 I don't care, they are all illegal.
This was what happened in No Kids in Cages from